Okay, I hope everyone can hear me. I think this is a really interesting topic and subject. And what I've tried to do is perhaps only talk for half an hour and then take questions, etc. But happy always to discuss longer and further. And I had hoped it would be one of a series, so there may be other topics and subjects that come out of this. And rather
Andrew,
than
can I just stop you for 1 second? You sound a little quiet to me. Are you quiet to other people? I'm not sure if your microphone's... Jane's shaking her head, so you can hear him okay, can you?
Yeah, I can hear him okay, Patty.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Sorry, Andrew. Sorry to stop you in mid-flow.
okay,
Yeah.
it's all right. No, it's fine. It's fine. So anyway, move on to the first slide, Patty.
Okay.
No, not changed. Oh, yeah. Okay. So for everybody, what we're talking about here is the dressage part of this is why it's important. So rather than discussing purely about dressage tests and the way of going, what I've tried to do is do some fairly serious slides and then looked at the real world. So what I think is really important, because when we got dressage, most people move into I'm very scared of it mode, and perhaps they haven't really thought about what they're actually doing. And I think that's really, really important for people to get a hold of. And here you've got some definitions that you can find very clearly in the book. You can find them in rule books, whether it's international, national, or local. And what you see on the slide in front of you, dressage, the definition of the library definition is the art of driving and training a horse in the manner that develops obedience, flexibility, and balance. Really simple. What is dressage test? It's where horses and driver are expected to perform from memory. But remember, now it's not always memory. Certainly within a lot of the clubs and the lower tests, we're quite happy that each tests are now called. And we understand that sometimes memories aren't as good as they used to be. Mine's certainly not. And it's a series of predetermined movements. That's
Andrew,
really what it is. It's in an enclosed area.
I'm not
Hello.
seeing any slide. Am I the only one? I'm only seeing people, not your slides.
Oh, right. Patty?
Well, I've got it on share screen. Jane, can you see the slides okay?
Yeah, I can.
I can't see the screens.
Oh, no, that's
The
really
slides.
weird.
Sometimes you need to
Yes.
slide left or right, swipe left or right to see the slide versus seeing other people.
It might be your settings.
Yes, you need to
Yeah.
go to the top right corner and change from gallery view to speaker's view.
Yeah, got it. I need to slide the screen. Got it. Thank you.
Okay,
Whoever said
good.
that, very much. Hopefully everyone can do that now and see it and hear what we've got. So again, remember, this is why is dressage good for us, or etc. So those are some of the explanations. The point of dressage is to determine harmony and trust between the horse and the rider. When I say horse here, I'm including ponies, so I'm not excluding ponies. I'm just using the word horse rather than putting them both in, which is achieved through good basic training. And remember that dressage is challenging for horses. Why? Because we're encouraging them to carry more weight on the hindquarters while staying in balance. They must also understand the meaning of the driver's aids and how to follow them. So all you're seeing here now are some real definitions of dressage and the things that we are wanting to think about and to see. Patty, kick on. And again.
It's a little slow when it's trying to catch up.
All right. Okay. There you go. Okay. So you've seen some definitions, really straightforward. And I've put this one up really because, again, we're into the slightly serious mode. It is the objectives of driven dressage. This is recognized nationally. It's in the rule book. It's recognized internationally. And this is what is a generally accepted understanding of what the objectives of what the driven dressage test is. Remember, this started way back in in the early 70s when the rules were driven, and it hasn't changed that much since the Duke created the rules. And the key thing to look on here are some of the real basic things which will always come back at you again when you're looking at the dressage. So the objective of the driven dressage test, not hugely dissimilar from ridden, is to judge the freedom going forwards, regularity of paces, the harmony. Here we have impulsion, but it could just easily be activity, suppleness, lightness, the ease of movement and bending of horses and ponies on the move. And those are mostly the things we are looking at. And when you begin to look at those words, you'll see them again and again. You'll see them in the dressage tests. Those are some of the real basics that we're looking at. And these things aren't rocket science. They are, to a certain degree, really straightforward and simple to achieve, depending on what level you are working at. So from the first slide, what you saw was some definitions. And now what you're seeing is the objectives of driven dressage. Remember the words in red, they'll come back again.
Andrew, I think you've frozen.
Just move forward with the driven dressage.
Can I ask you as
Okay,
well,
Patty.
can you just move your screen a little bit so that we can see your face instead of just your forehead?
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, so hopefully I'm moving again.
Yeah.
I apologize. I think my my internet's probably not as good as it could be. Okay, so there's some objectives. Okay, move on. Okay, this one may take a while. It's really, again, something that people use when they're looking at dressage, whether it's ridden or driven. And this is, you've heard the training scale. Some of you will know this, but this is what people use and look at. And if you see the same words come back again, and the training scale is how you take, whether it's a Shetland pony, or whether it's a Clydesdale, or whether it's a KWPN or a Cladruby. It's what we would like to think most people use to begin to move the horse forwards and get them trained. And here are the things that we are looking for in dressage tests often. Certainly the rhythm, which is the basic of everything. The suppleness. Once you have those, you have the contact, the impulsion, the straightness and collection. And you can see from the words on there that the training scale fits extremely well. And it's how far you want to take your horse or pony up that training scale. But those are the basics of what you're trying to look for within the driven dressage test. And as you can see on the right, and it says it begin to become submissive. But those are the real basics. But you know, we all do those things, and there's no reason why you can't do them as well. But the first couple of slides and this slide, really quite interesting. So here you go, thinking about the words, thinking about training. Here's something in training. I hope you enjoy my camels. I hope it plays all right. Perhaps the internet's not strong enough, Patty. Is that working for everybody or not? Is it flowing on yours, Patty?
It's going, but it's not flowing, Andrew.
That's a real shame, because what you have in front of you is the horse and the camel doing a dressage test. And the nice thing is the camel is doing probably better than the horse. I wouldn't say it was on the bit, but what it is doing, it's very well trained. And it's about the training. And people say, well, how do you train things? Camel itself, as it goes through, if it works in walk, trot and canter, and ends up by doing single time flying changes. So when you're looking at training, it's really, really in thought of the training. There's no reason why even the camels can't do exactly the same. And I'm sorry, the internet probably just isn't quite strong enough to do this. It's not a Dutch camel. Oh, there you go. Maybe it will. Maybe it won't. No. Okay, so I think we're probably struggling with that one, Patty. Just carry on. Next slide.
Yeah, 2 seconds. I'm just trying to sort it out. I've lost all the pictures now, which is quite entertaining. I'll be with you. I'll be back with you in a moment, hopefully. Right, we're back.
Okay. Okay, so what we've done, we've gone through the dressage part, and we've shown and thought about some of the more serious stuff. We've looked at some definitions, and we've looked at the actual, what's dressage for. You've looked at some objectives. So everyone's now going, well, that doesn't apply to me because that's not what I do, or it worries me, or it's frightened. So if we come back to the real world and what does it really mean for all of us, we can all do dressage. It just depends on what you want to call it. Now, every one of you who sits there and says, oh, mine doesn't do dressage, or it can't do dressage, all dressage is basic training. That's what this evening is about. It's about simplicity. We can do lots more complex stuff another night. Dressage is basic training, and we all do it. So for those who are worried about it, we all do it. Dressage is simply driving in straight lines and going around corners. Now then, for all of those sitting here, I suggest every time you drive out, you drive in a straight line and you drive around corners. It's really quite simple. Horses either go straight or they go around a corner. We all do it. One thing I often ask people when they drive out and they drive down the road is, how often do they, when they change direction, do they ask the horse or their pony to look in the direction they're traveling? And a lot of people often look blank at that. And if you continue to encourage a horse or pony to look along the line in which you're traveling, you'll probably have a pony or horse that's always bending. Dressage can be done by everyone because we all do it. It's basic, it's forward, and it's simple. Dressage is simply driving in straight lines and around corners. We make it more complex than it is. And we do it all the time. Most of us do it going down the road because we don't have big schools. At the minute, we don't even have paddocks because they're underwater. We don't have outdoor schools. And that isn't an excuse for not doing dressage. It depends what you want to call it. If you remember some of the first slides, we do it all the time, mostly down the road. We can all trot down the road in rhythm, and we can all trot down the road with a straight horse. Remember, a straight horse has his shoulders in front of his hips, not to one side. We all go around corners because you have to turn sometime. So you can all generate some bend, and you can all generate suppleness by doing the same thing both ways. We all stand still. I quite enjoy standing at the pub for half an hour. That teaches them to stand, or at the road junction. So we can all do halts. How many times do people come to me and say, oh, my horse won't stop, it won't stand still? I'll take it to the pub. We stand still. We communicate through the reins, contact and on the bit. It's a safety thing. And we all change speed. We stop, we start, we go quicker, we go slower, transitions and activity. So for all those amongst us who say, well, we can't do dressage because I don't have the facilities, we all trot down the road. Now, I'm making this very simple and very basic at the minute because I think it's really important for all of us to understand the level that we all work at, not just those who work at a level with all the facilities. So we all do it, and we all can show what we need to and improve the way the horse or pony goes through our exercise and the way we drive the horse. You just need to focus a little bit more on it. So in the real world, we don't need all the facilities. It's ideal if you've got them, of course. And it doesn't matter whether it's a Shetland pony or not, or whether it's a Clydesdale, it really doesn't matter. This is all the same for everybody. And for all those thinking, well, I can't do it because my pony's X, not the case. Patty, carry on. So where else can the dressage help? In the marathon, absolutely no question. If you look nowadays at marathon driving, whether it's a national, international, or local, those that are winning on the marathon now mostly are flowing and moving forwards with rhythm, balance, and energy, activity, and they're using impulsion. The horse is supple on the bit and has a good contact. All the words we used when we started. So if you want to know how to improve your marathon and enjoy it and enjoy and encourage the horse forwards, just extend what you're doing in the dressage. Keep it going forwards and moving. The cones, exactly the same. All the cones are straight lines, turns, and accuracy. Well, that's exactly the same as a dressage test. It's no different. And provided you've got your horse going forwards, which you can do on the road, provided you've got a contact, which you can do on the road, providing you're bending him and making him look where he goes or encouraging him to look where he's going, which you can do on the road or in the field, then actually both the marathon and the cones will improve. It also improves welfare and social license, because the welfare of the horse is really important. When you see horses that are not perhaps bending or looking as supple as they could be, then perhaps they're not as relaxed or as supple as they might be. We can always improve that. We can always improve it. It's no different than someone who's left or right-handed. So provided you can encourage the horse on the road to go straight, in other words, his shoulders are in front of his quarters, you can encourage him to look where he's going, you will begin to make him more supple. More supple horses enjoy their driving much better than going with the head stuck to one side or the other. So it's something you can do quite simply on the road that leads you to a better dressage. It improves the pleasure of driving, it improves the safety and the behavior of the horse, and it improves the enjoyment. So the dressage itself, which is all we're talking about here, is basic training of the horse. If you can do basic training, you can work the horse, you can go around the arena in the same way. There's no fears to this. It's really quite straightforward. And what's more, it allows your horse to have a much more relaxed and a better life, because you begin to develop his muscles equally, so he can then give you more. A lot of the time they won't go forwards or they won't take a contact. It's because they're not as supple as they might be. I was always taught by a vet that you can't train pain, and you can't train if it's uncomfortable. Give it some thought. Okay, Patty. Moving on, we just talked about the physical development now. The ongoing training develops all of the muscles and ligaments. It's no different than anybody who's getting ready to go to the Olympics or to go to the local football. You try to keep the horse straight and balanced. Why? Because you try to develop the muscles on both sides. I'm left-handed and right-handed, but you need to be physically fit to do what we're doing. It's really good for the mental health of both driver and horse to ensure the physical development works. As it doesn't matter what type of horse or cob it is. It creates a relationship, and it allows all three phases to develop further. So that physical development of the animal, no matter how talented they are, is really important and will improve your enjoyment, because the horse, more comfortable, more flexible, more supple, more forward, will give you far greater enjoyment, and it certainly will in the dressage test. Okay, carry on, Patty. There you go. It's entirely up to you which one of these you drive. I'd much rather ride the big one than the small one, but it's entirely up to you what you drive. So when you sort of come and say, well, my pony's X, Y, and Z, it doesn't matter. Each of these animals on here can go forwards.
You're almost done. Click Open File in the top right to continue.
Each of the ponies and the horses you've got on the screen can be trained to do dressage. Some are easier than others. Often it's the size that's really relevant. With the really small ponies, you have to make sure you can be really fit and work on long reins. Or if they're big enough to ride, find a rider who can really ride them. And if they're really the size of the guy on the left, then you find a rider again who can ride a big horse. But it doesn't and shouldn't matter what color it is, what size it is, what shape it is, down to how much talent has it got. But all of these two in front of you can work with rhythm and balance and go forwards. And therefore, at the lower levels of the dressage, they can gain the marks. Why not? So it's up to you what you drive, but then it's how you then can school it. That depends a little bit on the size. Okay. Here you go. I hear this quite a lot, but my horse has hairy legs and doesn't do dressage. Early dressage does not include collection, only activity. So it's not the case, the fact that a horse has hairy legs and maybe black and white or whatever color it is. It doesn't matter. It may not be naturally talented, but it can go in straight lines and it can go around corners. And I'm sorry, but I don't get that it can't. It can. And that's really what dressage is all about. Remember, we started this out by simply saying we really are looking for an animal to go forwards. We saw all the words very early on, rhythm and balance, and you can teach it all those things going down the road. And you can teach it to go around corners. And that's all your dressage test is in the early days. It's not anything more scary or more frightening. And remember now, at the lower levels, what we've said is quite simply, you can have the test read to you, so you don't have to even learn it. You can simply listen to it, and then you can learn it. I think when you get to a higher level, it's important you do know it and understand it, because you need to perhaps do more. But basically, forward, round, bend, and straight. It's why we have different levels in the dressage, and you've seen now within BC, we're trying to make sure, and perhaps in some of the club tests leading to that, the clubs run the higher level tests as well. You've also got things, but at the lower level, horses and ponies that can go round in a shape, as in an outline, can go forwards, bend in the corners, can track up if possible, are those who are able to gain marks. It's nothing to do with color, shape, or size. It's how you've trained that. All driving horses can go forwards. They can all drive in straight lines. They can all start, stop, and go faster or slower. Some can even go backwards. So who can't do the dressage? Is it the horse or the driver? I'd suggest the drivers need to give a lot of thought to this, if you can, keeping it really simple. And it's why we have the levels and progression, and why we have already changed the tests and worked with our judges to try to encourage people to do the basics that you can all do. And then you can begin to show improvement with that as to however that improvement works. So again, very simple stuff here. It's why does dressage matter? Why can it help you? But it helps you drive better. It helps the pony or the horse improve the way they go, and therefore improve your marks if you're doing dressage, but it'll also make your pony more comfortable, happier, and more likely to go forwards. A lot of the time, those that don't want to go forwards is because maybe they're uncomfortable, they're not evenly driven, and get stronger on one side than another, which makes it really uncomfortable. Okay, kick on. Okay, this is a slide that's very simple. I bunged it in just to say that, you know, the beginning in the training classes, what we're looking at: forward, active, tracking up, bending, rhythm, transitions, straight, large turns, circles, and developing on the bit. These are all the words we've just used. And now I hope that the class structure we're going to have within BC allows you then to move all the way up to the top blue bit, which is your horse that's doing an awful lot more, that's become more trained. But all we're talking about with dressage is progression and the ability to move forwards through that progression. Everybody can do that depending upon the talent of your
You're
horse.
almost done. Click Open File in the top right to continue.
Help. Okay, move on. Well, we can all dressage. Where do we train? And it's, again, just backing up what we've said before. Anywhere and everywhere, mostly on the road for most of our drivers. In the vehicle, under saddle, long range lunging. The equipment can be very basic and simple, not expensive. And we need to make sure the vehicles are balanced and running freely. So you can do a lot of things. It's interesting, isn't it, with this? As you begin to do more dressage, what you will do is begin to alter your harness. and actually make your harness fit better. There shouldn't really be much more than a couple of inches between pulling and stopping. If you begin to lose your contact, which is really essential in the dressage, check your harness. If your harness is too long, you're ever shortening and lengthening your reins because the horse is moving back and forwards in the vehicle too much. Make sure your vehicle is really well balanced. If it's a two-wheeler, and obviously with a four-wheeler, make sure it's turning easily. I often find horses that aren't straight, and one thing I then do is stop them. When they take them out of the vehicle, I pick the vehicle's side up and try and spin the wheels. And what you'll find is the wheel on one side is tighter than the wheel on the other, and you wonder why your horse and pony won't go straight. Simple things will help you improve the way you do your dressage. Really simple things. So make sure your vehicles are balanced. Make sure your harness fits really well. Harness is simple. It's got two things. It's got hanging straps and pulling straps. The hanging straps should hang vertically, and the pulling straps should be absolute straight line to the point of draft. If you don't have a straight line, you will be applying pressure to your horse or pony somewhere it doesn't need it, which will interfere with the way it works. Really simple stuff. If you get the basics right, you'll find it works really, really well. Patty. So question then
Oh,
how far do you want to go? Really, really well. Really, really well. But of course, if you are then of the mind that, wow, that all works, I want to do more, really important that you can then see how you can move forwards. Early tests do not include collection. We'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. Early tests do not include collection. What we're looking for is horses or ponies that are active. And what does active mean? We'd like to see the horse or the pony tracking up. In other words, the hind legs step into the place left by the foreleg or in front of it. And if your pony isn't doing that, you can look, perhaps get some help, but encourage it to step and become more supple in its back, and it'll begin to take longer steps. The more steps it takes, the longer it takes, and the steps are better, the horse will be more relaxed and will go forward better. But of course, if you want to win the medals, yes, you're going to need to have an animal that is actually talented enough to do it. There weren't many Linford Christies. There weren't many Usain Bolts. Therefore, there's a talent gap here. And to win the medal, if you're going to go all that way, you're going to need to have a long-term program. It takes a long time to train your horse. Sat on a ridden horse to go to Grand Prix may take you 6, 7, 8 years. To take some of the top horses now in dressage, certainly the singles and the saddle and driven, you know, they're probably 15, 16. Some of them are a little bit older. It takes that time. And you need to have a much bigger picture. You need to have a high quality athlete. And to win the medal, you will need to be dedicated and have time. So if you can start off by simply driving your horse better, keeping him straighter, keeping him working forwards, keeping him balanced, keeping a contact, all those basics, you will begin to generate a pony that will generate more marks in dressage. You'll begin to generate a horse or a pony that will go better on the marathon, and the cones will simply become hand-eye coordination. Because if I said to you to drive a golf buggy through the cones, you would probably go clear every time. Golf buggies are really good things actually to drive the cones with. But if you drove it through, you'd probably be fine because you can turn it and you can accelerate it and de-accelerate it easily. So get your golf buggy going and it works. Why
So much for Zoom.
Why can't you do the same with the horse?
I said so much for Zoom. I can't get it on the laptop and I can't get it on the phone.
Oh,
can I just
No,
stop you for a second, Andrew? Faith,
Yeah.
we've got you on screen and you're not muted, so we can hear you quite clearly.
Sorry.
don't worry, it's
Okay,
okay.
if you could just mute yourself, please. Thanks.
Keep going. So, so it's been so far really very, very simple, and that's what I intended to try to do, because obviously there'll be some questions about this. But I also just to put on here that comment that what you're doing leads forwards. If you look at the bulk of the people doing tests and driven tests in the country, the vast majority now would be pre-novice, doing it to enjoy it and really have a good time. It's really about having the pony and the horse that has a good time as well. And that's about keeping them straight, muscularly sound, and working forwards. Really important that they enjoy it because they'll go better if you do that. But if you want to move through the ranks, yes, there's more work. Yes, you will need a surface. You'll probably need a trainer if you can find someone to help you. And you will need then to keep them going further forwards, and you will need to begin to make the horse stronger. You need to gain some balance and more collection. In other words, the hind legs working better. So Patty, just the next slide, I think. There's a few more. So to sum it up, before we just move on to the collection bit, dressage is and can be for all. It depends on the level you want to work at. But I'm trying to really strongly encourage judges in the British Carriage Driving to look at the novice level and look at the positives about horses going forwards with rhythm, balanced, bending, tracking up. You know, it can be that simple. And those that are doing those things, I hope will get positive marks. And I think we had a really good session at Cricklands with the judges. We had 28 there, and we had comments with all the drivers who I have to say were really good. And we're all looking at the same things, which is really, really good. So it's not complex, this. Dressage improves all driving, marathon and cones because you're encouraging the horse to work correctly with muscles, bones, ligaments, tendons. Dressage simply improves our driving experience and the welfare of the horse. You know yourself, if you use one arm more than another, I'm very left-handed, then what you can do is get very stiff with your right hand and you tend to want to use the left. Throw me a ball, I catch it with my left hand all day. But your horse is just the same. His muscles and bones working the same both ways. And the fact that he does bend one way and not the other doesn't mean it's correct. You need to make sure your horse is straight. Have someone in front of you, watch you go down the road and see how straight he is. Straightness. A horse can't easily bend if he's not straight. Dressage can be done anywhere. Forward, balance and rhythm on the road. In other words, drive down the road. Don't just let your horse take you. Now, how often do you turn the horse? Because what I'd say to you is if you're driving down the road, certainly if you live in Cornwall or somewhere with twisty roads, every time you turn the horse, you should have a contact and encourage him to look where he's going. If you don't, why would he do it in the arena? Dressage should be fun exercise, positive for the horse. Dressage goes from very basic, enjoyable, fun on a Sunday afternoon, with good rhythm and balance, happy horse, to world class. And it just depends where you want to sit on that line. So basically, what's the problem? Patty, next one. Just quickly, we talked about collection and collected horses and ponies. Horse in the field. Research work on this. We put pressure pads on the horse's feet. We knew more or less what they weighed. So this is your 4-year-old horse in the field. And he carries around about 350 and about 250 on the hindquarters. That's a fact of life. This horse can be very active, very positive. He can be very forward, but that's what he's doing. He's basically pulling more with his front and not carrying his weight with his hind legs. And that's the basic of the young horse. So he can be active, he can have rhythm, etc., etc. But what you tend to see is the horse in that format, and there's his weight. And the next one. Okay, Patty. Hopefully there's another one.
Yeah, it's moved on.
Yeah. Okay. So you've moved on 7 years. Okay. So now what you have is a horse that has physically strengthened his hind legs and they're stepping further under the body. As a result of that, he lowers his hindquarters and he physically carries now about 270 kilos on his front legs and all the rest of the weight is on his hind legs. Now then, if you remember what I said from the start, within the dressage, the vast majority, novice and working into open, we increasingly are not seeking collection. We want forward, active, driven horses or ponies. Why? Because it's better for them, it's better for our social license, it's better for the horse welfare, and it will give you a much better drive. And it's more fun doing something, I think, when you're driving out, excuse me, and enjoying it. If you're going to move forwards, you'll move from the last slide more to this slide, which is a very collected horse. If you go to Spanish riding school, this is what you'll see. And the reason they can jump in the air, because they used to do that to fight in the opposition in the wars, is because he's now got all the weight on his hind legs and he is balanced. He's absolutely balanced where he is. And therefore he can hold that weight. And collection is the line between the first slide and the second slide. And that's can take 2 years. It's a continuous journey. And that depends on how far you want to go down the line. Because when you begin to gain more collection with your horse or pony, when you want to become an open or an advanced driver, provided you've done all the basics that you have all done on the road and have done really well, and provided the horse is straight, then you can begin to gain the collection that's being asked for. This isn't a mystery. This isn't trotting around the arena perhaps saying collect or collect. This is just a process of ongoing continuous training with your horse or your pony to encourage his hind legs to work harder and therefore take more weight off the front legs. When he does that, what it means is the front legs become much more mobile, much more able to move, to lift, to turn, etc. And if you're not quite sure, if you stand very straight with your legs right away underneath you, you'll find it much easier to balance. And balance is that simple. If you've got the strength, you can balance. If the horse isn't balanced, again in the dressage, obviously, that's why in the more advanced tests now you see things like shoulder in, because the shoulder in the higher level tests encourages the horse to step underneath himself with the hind legs towards the center of gravity. The center of gravity is where the girth would go underneath the horse. You do it left and you do it right to encourage both legs to work together, and that will increase and improve the collection. And for those of you who are working at open level or working towards advanced level, you can do shoulder in all day down the road. You don't have to have an arena, you don't have to have a fence, etc. You can do it going down the road. And it's a really nice exercise to do with the horse because it does several things for you. It puts him in the outside rein, provided you have a contact. And the contact with the horse now is so critical. It's critical at all levels. But the contact is a discussion, remember, in dressage. It's a discussion in the obstacles and it's a discussion in the cones. And cones are about balance and rhythm and driving. And you know what really quite annoys me when I'm sat in the judge's box is seeing people gallop around the cones. Now, I'm aware there's a huge debate about times and speeds and distances, but when you see people coming in 20 seconds under the time and they've knocked 2 down, well, they need to think about the balance and the rhythm. And the good drivers now at the top level certainly are the ones who mostly drive in balance and rhythm, and they've come up all the way through. If you look at the marathon top drivers, probably in the single championships a couple of years ago, the good marathon drivers actually came into the obstacle with the whip in the socket. You know why? Because the horses were forward, on the bit, supple, round and bending. They simply asked them which way to go. And then when standing by the obstacles, what you heard was, oh, that was slow. No, 5 seconds faster. Rhythm, balance and supple. And you will go quicker. And the horse will be happier. You won't have an open mouth, but he'll be positive. And the public watching will be really positive about the dressage and the way of going of the horse. Really quite simple. So there's the collection. And you can see there with the much lowered quarters where the weight is and how it's working for the horse and what it's doing. And that because I think one of the things most people struggle with is the collection. And that's why we've taken it out of a lot of the tests that we've done, or we've now put it in and we're working towards. And we'll continue to adjust those tests to allow the majority of the people to work towards it rather than have to do it. Because what we've done is we've created a generation of people who tend to simply go slower because that's what they think collection is in the dressage test. It's not. Collection is the hindquarters working harder, and those last two slides hopefully help you gain that understanding of what we mean when we talk about collection. What we're looking for in the novice tests, so the horse is active naturally. He's stepping forward with his legs, but he's not yet carrying the weight with his legs, but he's trying to. And you see it in the arena. You see some really lovely types. And I was away beginning of last year in America. They have a big VSC class, very small equines. And of the 130 competitors we have, including 2 world champions, the VSE pony won the dressage. He was 11.3, I think, but he was beautifully trained. The lady who trained him was very good with long reins. But what I'm saying to you is simple. It doesn't matter size, shape, color, fluffy legs, big tail, long mane, whatever it may be, whatever you have, if he's moving forwards in the right way, we'll encourage the judges to try to help you and give the marks to ensure that that's what we're looking for. That'll be the next evening when we talk about what the judge is looking at, perhaps. But I hope what we've tried to do this evening is just to look very simply at the things we're looking at. Just carry on to the next one, Patty. I'm sure people are bored by them. Perhaps in future months, what I'd like to do is do some of the following: what the judges are looking for, using the arena, judging the driving horse at paces, creating dressage tests, movements involved, international and advanced driven dressage. So I think I've tried to keep this as short as I sensibly can, and hopefully that's been the case. And I've tried to be very basic. I'm very happy to take that further forward with other presentations, and hopefully that's been useful. Just try the next video. I can't remember which one it is. I'll be in trouble now.
It's the bent pony.
Okay, just have a look at this, people. Again, the video's just not going to be strong enough, Patty.
Oh, is it not? It's showing on my screen okay, but it may not
Okay.
be transmitting properly.
Could just be mine. But I hope for what people are looking at and can see is all the opposite of the things we've been talking about. This is a pony that's not going forward. He's not bending. He's not really listening. He's being asked to lengthen. It's impossible. He's uncomfortable. So he breaks pace because he's not comfortable. If you see the head always going the wrong way, you see he's hurried. He appears to be rushing. So what this pony is doing is moving away from being uncomfortable. And clearly, the basics we talked about, remember, balance, rhythm, in and out line, suppleness, straightness. And now all I'm doing is being extreme and saying to you, just think about what you're now looking at. All the things we said when we first started with those first few slides are now on the screen, but not going well. I was actually at this test, and we actually stopped the driver at the end of the test, and we wouldn't let the pony go on the marathon. The pony was subsequently sold, put in a field, and left for 2 or 3 months. I saw him the following year. This is in Florida. And actually someone had taken him, and he was now straight, going forward, equally muscled, on the bit, and a smiling pony. This isn't anything, but we need to redo whatever the problems have been created and then put it right and then supple it. Because this pony's a saint. Because he's trying so hard. He just needs some help. Just makes you think a little bit. And what we're doing here is not social license, and it's not horse welfare. It's extreme, guys, but think about it. Patty, what's the next one? Just very quickly, if we can get the next one. Yeah, okay, here's the other end of the spectrum. Let's see if this one will work. You need to just click the bottom of it, Patty.
Yeah,
Will it go?
yeah, there you
Yeah.
go.
I'm not sure if this will work. Is that moving okay for you? If not, we'll find a way of strengthening these videos for next time.
Yeah, I don't think that's working terribly well on even mine, so it was
Okay.
earlier.
Okay, right.
I think we're losing the signal a bit.
That case, in which case you've all sat. Yeah, don't worry. I think we can do it better another time, Patty, and we'll just work on making it work another time. So I hope what I've tried to do, which has been really quite simple, I think, is to discuss basics, way of going, discuss that things we can all do, why it's important. And I hope by a result of that, I'm very happy now to answer questions in any way, shape or form. If I've made it too basic, I apologize. But I hope by starting a series of things, we can start in that way. And that's what I've tried to do for everybody. And any questions, Patty, how do you want those?
Okay, Andrew, as I said at the beginning, if you've got any questions, if you could please type them in the chat box, that would be very useful. I will try and look out for anybody whose hands are waving madly. To give you a little bit of background, it was up until the last 2 years of my competition career, which finished in 2014, I never took my horse into an outdoor school or an indoor school in the carriage. We didn't have that facility. So I did all of my dressage training on the roads. So going around bends and around all the industrial estates and everything, just to get the horse bending and listening to me. We used to do serpentines up the road when there was no traffic. It was quite fun. So have we got some questions, please?
I think they're all now looking the other way, Patty.
That's what happens. That's because we've got 100 people online, which is absolutely amazing. Just for information, this is actually going to be on YouTube as well. We now have a YouTube channel. So all the videos from these evenings are going to be on the YouTube channel.
So
I'll ask a question.
I've got a
Yes.
question here, which says about the whip and the whip holder on the marathon. I thought you had to have a whip in hand.
Oh, where you like. No, you don't.
Yeah.
No, you can throw
You're
it.
no longer required to carry a whip
No.
on the marathon at all.
Nope.
I've got a question. Well, it's not really a question, Andrew. It's just a thought.
Yeah, please.
So I know you use the word basic, and I'm just wondering whether fundamental might be a better word, because it is fundamental to everything we do.
Okay. Yep. I will. I'm very happy to make a change for that. Thank you. Yeah.
No, it's just a reflection, really. Of,
Yeah.
you know, I'm a nurse, so we talk about the fundamentals of care. We don't say basic care, because actually it is fundamental to what we want to achieve.
I think that's
It
really,
underpins things.
thank you. No, I think that's really useful. And I think the word you used there, as in underpins, I think, Ruth, is really, really, really positive as well, because I think the way we can improve the way the horses go is by getting those fundamentals right. And I often see people struggling to try to do the next bit, but because the fundamentals aren't right, they're not going to get there, and it just gets frustrating. And the poor old pony or horse tends to get it a little bit in the neck, if you like, because he's not doing it. And it's no different than you or I. If I'm going to do a degree in X, Y, and Z, I've got to start here and move here. Same with your nursing, I'm sure. So the fundamentals is a good word. I will use that. Thank you.
We haven't got any more questions in the chat at the moment.
Well, that's not completely surprising, but you know. No?
Well, I currently don't have any animals, but I still found it really interesting. So I hope everybody else did.
I hope what I haven't done is made it what people weren't expecting. But I think it's really important that what we do is, looking forwards in welfare, etc., we begin to really think about this. And I do reflect on Chepstow curriculums when we were watching as judges, that a lot of the time, as soon as they came in and they were balanced, they were rhythm, they're mostly novice or novice plus, and they moved around the arena, we would give them 7s and 8s and probably more, because the basics, the fundamentals were correct. And those are the things we can do all the time wherever we go.
We are getting some lovely comments in the comment box, thanking us for organising and look forward to the next session. Thank you. I'll be checking that my carriage runs evenly, schooling out hacking. So yeah, it's obviously very, very positive. Sarah, you've got your hand up.
Just as a fellow judge to Andrew, I think if you're sitting a long day watching dressage tests, forwardness and looking as though the person is enjoying themselves is very, very important, because if you don't have that, I'm there to present my horse the best way I can. If you look underwhelmed, you will do an underwhelming test. I think always look up, look forward, make it look as though you're enjoying what you're presenting.
Yep. Thanks, Sarah. Sarah's right. It's absolutely right. And you know, the more the pony or the horse goes forwards, the more you are interested as a judge. And it's easier then to give the marks. People won't believe this, but I have great joy in giving 8s and 9s, because it means I've enjoyed looking what I'm looking at. And often when you're sitting and you're thinking about lower marks, you're tending to think, oh, what a shame, the poor horse or pony is just uncomfortable. And therefore, very quickly, we could begin to save this. And if you want to know how long it takes to change from that stiffness to the straightness and whatever, just imagine how long it'll take you to become ambidextrous. How long will it take your right hand to become as strong as your left hand, or the other way around? Because that's really probably as long as the horse and pony will take. You can't force it. Yeah, if you go to a training session with really good trainers, they can mostly, within a couple of minutes, get it looking to the right when it wouldn't bend. But when you take it home, surprise, surprise, it doesn't bend anymore, because you haven't quite got that strength and skill in your hand. The pony will bend, or the horse will bend, when the horse is supple enough to do it. Just the same as your left or your right hand. So spend the time. Someone commented to me a little bit about the use of the whip in the dressage. The dressage whip, or as a schooling aid, is something you can use. It encourages to step away, encourages for the bend, the horse, but you can use it to tap the horse to remind him of what you're trying to do, provided that's what you've trained him to do at home. You know, and I was taught, you know, with the whip to touch and to encourage forwards. On the back, I would touch them to say, don't do it again. I touched them where I'd use my leg to say, come on, go forwards, and just encourage it as a driving aid. And that's what it is. If you overuse it, you will get comment, but use it to encourage the horse forwards.
Marcel, you've got your
Yes, thank you. It's been really, really helpful tonight. And I realize now, Andrew, that tomorrow morning I will have to profusely apologize to my 6 mini Shetlands for blaming them for rather poor dressage that I've achieved. And now I know it's all my fault. So that has been really, really helpful, actually. Your point's really good. It doesn't matter how big or small your equine is. For dressage, yes, although I long for the day when I can achieve beautiful extended paces in the same way that long legs can. So yes, I mean, it's a good point. I don't think it's easy. The shorter the legs, I think the harder it is. But clearly an apology to my herd is due tomorrow morning.
Thank you for the comments. I think I'm sure the apology is not necessary. I think I think you're right. And because we choose what we drive, it's no different, is it? If you were going to choose a shot putter, you would choose someone who was probably 6'3", rather strong and quick to throw it. What you wouldn't choose is the 2'1" or the 3'4" person who's really not strong enough. So you'll always struggle to get the 2'1" or 3' person to throw the discus, whereas the other guy is starting with an advantage. And that's just how it is. But it doesn't mean to say, as you quite point out, that those ponies, and you know, when you see the good teams of small ponies and the VSEs, and as you're probably all aware, we're now working really hard now to get a really good VSE class going outside, then what we're looking for in that, it may be something we discuss with the VSEs to say, okay, how do you want us to judge what you're doing?
I'm really pleased you said that, because I used to be a sailor all my life, and I've only been in the equestrian sport for the past 10 years, really. So I'm a bit of a baby, really, in that respect. And I've never seen a sport that is so difficult, actually, and so variable. I mean, the variations within the sport are ginormous. You know, you put 10 sailors in 10 rooms, and you ask them the same question, and the chances are you will get the same answer.
Yeah.
You put 10 horsey people in 10 different rooms, and you ask them the same question, you will get 9 to 10 different answers. And this is really hard. This is really, really difficult. So I think when it comes to the VSEs, you know, the reason I choose mini Shetlands is because I had them, and one of them happened to be pre-trained. So I just carried on with them, really. I like them very much because they're difficult, and I'm attracted to difficult beings. But I think there has to be thought given. No, actually, there has to be impact and change given to attract more people into the sport and make it more possible for equitable participation. You know, I can't do cones in any less than full all the way to achieve my 220 meters per minute. It's not possible. It's not possible. So I think if we wanted to attract more people into the sport, which we have to, because it's a diminishing sport in terms of participation rates, then I think in conjunction with what I feel is excellent developing training in this country, and I think it's getting better and better and better, there has to be thought given to maybe making it more equitable amongst
that's what
classes.
I think you're right in saying, and what we've said to the VSE people we've spoken with up till now, I know we've done one, and we're speaking again, I think tomorrow, with others. What we're saying to you is, what speed do you want? It's not BC's role here to dictate out. It's to ask the VSE, the smaller ponies, what speed do you feel you can all be comfortable at?
Okay, so
you're not to do that.
Yeah. I see that perspective. If you have people who are expert in how these animals work, then they surely are better placed to work out what is reasonable. What is reasonable, you know? And I can't tell you what it is because I don't know enough. But if you had different, take yachting, if you have different classes of yachts, you can work out exactly what is reasonable and not reasonable in terms of working out what they can achieve and what they can't achieve, you see. I think it's the same with equines, really, and with indoor anyway. You've got the aggregated scores already that compensates for that. So I think work has to be done, but I think you need to be expert in understanding how the animal works, rather than somebody like me who basically drives for 10 years. That's about it.
Thank you. Okay.
Awesome.
Anybody else?
Do we have any more questions? We've had lots of lovely comments in the chat box. Thanking you, Andrew, very much. Anybody else got their hands up?
Okay.
No.
If not, then thank you all for listening. And if everybody wants, we'll continue with the series every other time or whatever, and make it more difficult and more complex.
Yes, thank you all for attending. We've had 100 people here tonight, which is fantastic. If anybody wants to have a look at it again, as I say, it will be up on YouTube very shortly. And look forward to seeing you at the next one that we organise.
Thank you all very much.